In this video, we'll take a look at how to use action events and listeners in the NetBeans GUI Builder. To start off, I'm going to create a new Java project called Action Demo. And I'm going to create a new frame. Okay, so here we're at the form designer. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a GUI that has 3 buttons. And each one of these buttons, we're going to add an action listener to them. And each one will basically will then set the text of some label. So what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 buttons. So let's prototype them right now. So here I'm going to have one button. I'm going to have another one and a third one. And each one of these will set some text inside a label. And we're going to put the label up here, like so. Right, and the text for the buttons will define a color. So in this case, I will say red, green, blue. And when I click on this red button, what I want to happen is I want this label to say you choose red. And in addition to that, I also want the text of the label to change the color according to the button that I chosen. So if I click on red, I want the text of that label to turn red, and green to turn green, and the blue button to turn the text blue. Okay, so let's go ahead and prototype that GUI using the NetBeans GUI Builder. Okay, so at this point, I have my GUI ready for adding the action listeners. So here I have 3 buttons. Each one says the name of the color, so red, green, and blue, as well as the text of the color of the text is also color according to the label. And plus, we also have this status field on top, which is a label. And so now let's go ahead and add the actions handlers to each of these buttons. So there are a couple of ways that you can use to add action listeners. So I'm going to go through each one of these. For each one of these buttons, we'll do a different way of doing it. So the first way to add an action listener is by double-clicking on the button. And so what this will do is this NetBeans GUI Builder will generate a method that will be called to handle this action event. Okay, so in this case, this is where you add your custom code to handle these events. So in this case, I want to set the status label the text to say red, or say you choose red. And I also want to set the text color, which is accomplished by setting the foreground color to be red. Okay, so let's run the project and see how that looks. The first time you run a project, it will ask you to choose what's the main class to set. Now, when we created the project, we actually uncheck the create main class from the wizard. So this is why it's going to ask you, because you haven't set a main project yet. So let's go ahead and choose the actual demo frame as our main project. Okay, so now if I click on the red, we should see the label change text, as well as the text color of that label to become red. So that's good. So now the other way to add an action listener, instead of double clicking on a button, is by you can right click on the button and then go to the events from the pop-up menu and say action, and then choose action perform. So again, we'll do the similar thing that we did with the red button. And let's run it and see how that looks. So if I click on red, I should see red still. And if I click on green, it would turn green and the text would say you choose green. This is good. Now the third way you can add a action listener is using the properties view. Right? So in the properties view, you can go navigate to the events section and then choose action perform, and from there you can click on the drop down and choose this blue action perform. And what that will do is this will create the same method that has been created for the other two buttons. And we're going to do the same thing for the third button. And we can run it and see how that looks. Right? If we click on red, green, and blue. All right, so that's 3 ways that you can use to add an action listener in the NetBeans GUI Builder. For those of you that are coming from the world of hand coding everything yourself, right? The way that the NetBeans GUI Builder works with action listeners is, right? So when you create an action listener in the NetBeans GUI Builder, the NetBeans GUI Builder will generate this code right here, where it will add an action listener, and then using a anonymous class, it will then call this method that generates automatically. Okay, so that's all for this video. I've shown you how to add an action listener to a button. All right, so thank you for watching.